All right, so Nancy Pelosi, the approximately 787-year-old corrupt ghoul from California, has decided that she is going to force us to deal with her presence for just a couple more years, as she just announced her re-election bid. So here from the New York Times, they say Pelosi, defying predictions, says that she will seek re-election in 2024. Okay, so a little bit of details here, and then I'll give you guys some more on my take. They say Representative Nancy Pelosi of California, who served for decades as the Democratic Party's House leader and was the first woman to become Speaker, announced on Friday that she would seek re-election in 2024, ending months of speculation about her political future. And so, yes, she did break those barriers, the first woman to become Speaker, and let everybody know that, yeah, it is, not a gender thing to have corrupt asshats leading our government, right? It can be a woman, it can be a man, and you can be equally corrupt and, equally in opposition to everything good that the American people want to see happen. So they continue. They say, quote, from Nancy Pelosi herself, in light of the values of San Francisco, whatever that means, which we've always been proud to promote, I've made the decision to seek re-election, she said on Friday at an event in her hometown. And since she stepped down from leadership last year, obviously Hakeem Jeffries sort of taking the mantle, after Democrats lost the House majority, many observers expected that Miss Pelosi, who is 83, is the seventh oldest member of the chamber, was headed for retirement. Some had been surprised to see her stay in Congress at all, a rare move for a former speaker, and speculated that she would not finish her term. Man, I wish. But colleagues said that she has relished her lower profile as a rank-and-file member with emeritus status. And so, obviously, this doesn't even need to really be said, but just because she stepped down from this position does not mean that she's not still one of the top dogs within the House of Representatives. I mean, she's wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, right? And she obviously has a significant degree of control over the current House Democratic minority as well. Just because she stepped down from the official position, it doesn't mean that she doesn't still have that influence. But in that new role, Ms. Pelosi offers advice on an as-needed basis. Okay, in other words, whenever there seems to be some sort of like leftist insurgent policy proposal, she's there to shut it down, right? As an as-needed basis to her party's new leadership team, she often sits in the back rows of the House floor, gabbing with her closest friends, just gabbing it up, and focuses her attention on San Francisco while quietly remaining a fundraising powerhouse for Democrats. Okay, again, where is she getting this fundraising from? I mean, this is why Nancy Pelosi was the House Speaker for so long. This is why she was the leadership within the, House of Representatives on the Democratic side for so long. Same goes for Chuck Schumer. Same goes for Mitch McConnell. Same goes for Kevin McCarthy. All of these motherfuckers are in the position that they are because they are the most adept at raising funds from billionaires and from corporate America, right? That's their specialty. That's why they get promoted to these positions. And she said, quote, I'm emancipated now. And ebullient, Miss Pelosi said in a recent interview with the Los Angeles Times. They say even as Miss Pelosi made it clear that she would stay on after giving up her leadership post, some Democrats assumed that she would leave Congress early, potentially clearing the way for her daughter, Christine Pelosi, a party activist and a Democratic National Committee executive committee member. I don't know why they said committee there, but to run for her seat. So apparently we're just living in political dynasty eras, right? We had the Bushes, we had the Clintons, we get the Pelosi's, right? We just can't get rid of any of these people. They say Miss Pelosi's decision to carry on with her 36-year career in the House comes at a moment of renewed scrutiny on the advanced age and health status of the country's leading public servants, including President Biden, who's aged 80, and Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, who's aged 81, the longtime Republican leader. And questions about whether they have overstayed their time in power. Yes, they obviously have the overwhelming majority of the American people don't want these to be our leaders anymore, right? I mean, whether that's Republicans or Democrats, right? Republicans don't like Mitch McConnell anymore. They don't want him to be leading the party, right? Democrats even, I would say I guess you could say liberals do have a, affinity for Nancy Pelosi or something. But, generally I think the American people across the board want some new faces, right? 36 years in the same position is probably enough, right? You're over 80 years old. And on top of that, you have a net worth of, according to here, Open Secrets, over $100 million, okay? Much of that earned as she was a member of Congress. Now, I'm no, specialist on the economy or, on stocks or anything like that, but I would think that maybe there's a correlation with her being in this position of power, the, numerous trades that her husband makes as a part of her family, right? And, making millions and millions of dollars off of that. I would think that there would be a, correlation with the, growth in her wealth and her position in power here and potentially access to some insider information. So much so that our members of Congress, including Nancy Pelosi, frequently beat the market to a significant degree. So either they're, the most prolific stock traders in the entire country, in the entire world, or they're corrupt. I would tend to think that it's probably the latter. I mean, even with Nancy Pelosi, there are literally like TikTok accounts and Twitter accounts and Reddit forums where people are tracking. They have like literally the Nancy Pelosi husband stock trading tracker, and they basically just do whatever he does because they know that that's going to have a solid return on the markets. And so again, you're just massively corrupt. You made all of these millions of dollars during your tenure, right? And you're a member of Congress making what, a couple $100,000. It's not as if, you're becoming this exorbitantly wealthy from your position and serving the public or something like that. No, we know exactly how you made your money. And, you would think that with a net worth of over $100 million at the ripe old age of 83, that you would maybe, I don't know, go sit on a fucking beach somewhere and stop holding up Congress and stop having an influence over, the future of the world and of this country and future generations. I mean, you would think maybe they could just go like, I don't know, maybe just go enjoy your life somewhere else, leave us alone. But no, they insist on holding on to power until I guess all of these people just drop dead on the floor of the Senate or the House one day. I mean, we just saw this with Mitch McConnell as well, having like multiple freeze-ups in just a matter of months, where he literally just completely sits there and freezes and just like stares off into the abyss for, a minute or, two at a time, while people are like, what the hell's going on with this guy? And then he just comes back like a day later and he's like, yep, my doctor said it was nothing to worry about. I'm not going to retire. Potentially I'm going to run for re-election again, which is something Mitch McConnell apparently flirted with the other day, even after all of these, mental hiccups. I mean, like, all of these people look like they're on death's door. Dianne Feinstein, another great example, right? Remember when they wheeled her back to her position in the Senate and she was coming in a wheelchair and looking all frail? I mean, it's terrible, right? If these were ordinary civilians, I would have nothing but sympathy for them, but you're not ordinary civilians. You are some of the most powerful people in the country, right? You are dictating policy and you are not mentally there anymore. Now, I don't know the degree to which like Nancy Pelosi's mental health has fallen off a cliff. I haven't seen that as much as somebody like Dianne Feinstein or even Biden or even McConnell or even Trump for that matter. So I don't know on the mental side of it, but it just comes to a point where it's like, you guys are too old. I'm sorry. I'm not necessarily in favor of, strict like age limits, because, then I look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, who's all there. He's all with it. He's putting forward great policies that, are beneficial to younger generations. And so it is kind of a case-by-case basis. But at some point, you're over 80, it's time to move on with your life. And again, this comes at a time as there's been increased scrutiny on the ages of some of our top representatives. And as pointed out here by Ken Klippenstein in a write-up for The Intercept, friend of the show, he says, Pentagon-funded study warns dementia among U.S. officials poses national security threat. Okay, so now we have like Pentagon-funded think tanks that are coming out and saying, not only is this like a problem for the logistical functioning of the U.S. government, but it's actually a problem for national security. Okay, because who knows? I don't know. Maybe they have some dementia episode one day and they, call the wrong person or say the wrong thing offhand to a, some person or they're on the phone with somebody. I mean, who knows what could happen, right? Let alone the actual like policy decisions these people are making. I mean, somebody like Dianne Feinstein, there are all of these reports that basically her staffers and maybe even her family member are basically just running her, position in the Senate. They're telling her what to vote for and what makes sense and how to justify things that she's doing. I mean, it's just like, it's a puppet show. It's completely absurd and ridiculous that we are living under this kind of a gerontocracy within the United States. And you can look at this in the data as well. In the aggregate here, as pointed out by 538, we're apparently dealing with like historic levels of gerontocracy right now. So just a little bit, couple data points here to look at. The House and Senate are older than they have ever been before. Okay, so this is the median age of U.S. Senate and House representatives in Congress from 1919 to 2023. And I mean, you can see, especially since like the 1990s, it just continues going up and up and up to the point where now the average age, the median age, in the Senate is 65 years old. Okay, in the House it's 58, so it's a little bit better in the House. You have all of these like younger up and comers, AOC, younger people like Ilhan Omar, people like that. But I mean, still, that's the median age, 58 in the House of Representatives. Okay, and the median age in the Senate, 65, over 65 years old. Another data point that I thought was interesting here: baby boomers are the biggest generation in Congress today. And again, this does have an impact in terms of their legislation, right? I mean, my generation as a member of Gen Z, I mean, first of all, we have like essentially nobody, who's actually, Gen Z members of Congress. We have like literally a handful of them at this point, but this does have an impact in their legislation, right? Because I mean, keep in mind, my generation is a generation that on the current trajectory is never going to be able to own a home, for example, right? And you have like the boomer generation, which is obviously dominant within Congress, and they have an incentive to sort of like protect the status quo, because that's how they accumulated a lot of the wealth over their lives, was from owning a home and building equity and building, wealth through that manner. I mean, that's sort of how they view the American dream, right? But then future generations are just fucked because the people who are running our government happen to be from this generation and see the world and are influenced and biased in certain ways. It's not all of them, but a lot of them, I would say. And that influence tends to lead to them not wanting to solve a lot of the problems that are going to affect younger generations. Climate change is another great issue, right? You have guys like Joe Manchin and all of these other people who are sitting at the top of the most powerful positions within the Senate, people who are over 50, 60 years old. I mean, these are things that are not really going to affect them down the line. Climate change is going to fuck me. It's going to fuck my generation. Is it going to fuck Mitch McConnell? No. I mean, you could say maybe his grandkids or something. Does he care about his grandkids? I would say probably not, given his actions on such a key issue like that. And so, I mean, again, it's just so ridiculous, the position that we're in right now. Again, I'm not necessarily in favor of age limits, although I'm trending more so in favor of doing that, even if you do, end up getting rid of a couple people who are, notably, outstandingly, comparatively, like, better senators, like Bernie again, for example. I understand it's not 100%. I understand that that's sort of, like, discriminatory against old people, but at the end of the day, I mean, if this is the trade-off of getting rid of some of these people who are above the age of, like, 75, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, Dianne Feinstein. I mean, so many of these people need to go, okay? It's past their time. You've made all of this money being a corrupt asshat within Congress. Go retire. Go, sip your drinks on the beach. Leave us all the fuck alone.